Dear Father divine, I humble myself, Lord, before the mighty throne of God. You're the Lord of glory. We are dust and ashes. But we have come to worship you, Lord, and what a privilege it is. Speak to each one of us. Pour your Spirit. Hide me behind the cross. May Jesus and his great power be exalted in Christ's name. Amen. Well, today we are going to take a trip to outer space. A trip to outer space. You remember the nursery rhyme? Twinkle, twinkle, little star. I remember when I was doing a week of prayer for the kids in a school, and I said, do you remember Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? They sang the whole song. And I was wondering, why did I say that? Well, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Claudius Ptolemy, in the 2nd century AD, he wrote a manual for astronomy, which has been the textbook for hundreds and hundreds of years till the 17th century AD. And he, by his vast knowledge, talked about planet positions. He talked about the solar and lunar eclipse. He is the father who went into the deep research of astronomy. And in his famous book, Almagest, Introduction to the Mathematics of the Heavens, he tells us, and you can find that in the encyclopedia. I quote from the Encyclopedia Britannica. He said there are 1,022 stars in the sky. And people believed it till the 17th century, because his work was the textbook for everyone. Then comes Galileo, and he had his own telescope. He started looking into the orbit, into the expanse of the universe. And he concluded, against what was believed before, that the planets are round, including the earth is round. They all believed earth was flat. And Galileo was punished by the church for saying the earth is round. And Galileo contributed a lot. And in 1982, you have Dr. Helen Dorrit Ofalright. She came out and she said there are 9,000 stars in the sky. So they're adding from 1,022, they went to 9,000. But the Bible tells us in the book of Daniel that in the last days knowledge shall increase. And we are living in a time where there is an explosion of knowledge. NASA sent the Hubble telescope on 25th of April 1990. This is a massive telescope. It weighs 11,600 kilograms or 25,573 pounds. It sent it up into space 1990, and it costed them $2 billion. And recently, December 25, 2021, NASA sent another one, James Webb Telescope, into space. And it weighs 6,200 kilograms, or 1,368 pounds. And it costed them a whooping $10 billion. The Hubble Space Telescope, basically, it orbits the Earth. But James Webb Telescope, it orbits the Sun. And Hubble Space Telescope is 570 kilometers, or around 350 miles above the Earth. And James Webb Telescope is 1.5 million kilometers, or close to 1 million miles above the Earth, taking pictures of the incredible universe and sending it back to man, which stunned the scientific world. Now, these two telescopes, basically, they function on different wavelengths. You have the ultraviolet wave and the infrared ray. You know the colors of the rainbow? Violet, it starts, it ends up in red. So one is ultraviolet rays, that is the Hubble, and infrared, the James Telescope. It's a different wavelength. The infrared waves, they can penetrate deep within and go through the dust particles and take pictures and send it back to planet Earth. You can see from these two telescopes taken and side by side, you can see the clarity of the James Webb Telescope because the mirror is gigantic as well. And stunning pictures were sent to the scientists. And they started to marvel at the wonders of the universe unknown to man till now. And people were wondering, as the nursery rhyme goes, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." And today, we can see a little more of the wonder of the universe. These are some stunning pictures from these two spaceships. The clarity, the peeping through the distant galaxies. You know, knowledge has increased. 1969, man landed on the moon. And then 1972, some more men landed on the moon. But after I was born in 1972, nobody went. But in 2024, next year, 4 people are going to the moon. They're exploring. But you know what? 2,000 years ago, God already showed John a woman on the moon. Amen? Well, we know it's prophetic. Men are too late. You had God's woman on the moon. Amen? Mars landing. July 4, 1997. Man has not landed there, only the robots. They are so far, far away. Mars is so far away, 182.6 million miles. Man has managed to put a robot there and to do some research. Well, they are planning to build a city in Mars. One-way ticket, including a cliffside condo, starts with $300,000. One-way ticket, because probably you're not coming back. And you have to take your own food, own oxygen, own water, because nothing is available up there. And you know how much it costs? $100 billion. Anybody wants to go? $100 billion? You have to carry your own oxygen. Probably you'll be on ventilator there all the time. But I thank God there is a city prepared for all of us. Amen? Far beyond Mars, far beyond the distant galaxies. And how much does it cost us? He shall freely give us He shall freely give us all things. He has paid the price on Calvary. It is free for us, but He shed His own blood so that you and I can receive that gift. Let's do some calculation. Well, we are right there in the United States, in the state of Maryland, and we are just one of the 220 plus countries in the world. And 8 billion plus people populate this planet Earth. And the surface area of the Earth is 197,060,800 square miles. And how much of the property do you have in this place? Little, right? And we think it's a big earth. Yes, it's a big earth. That's the earth, a part of the solar system. And the earth looks big when you compare it with some of the neighboring planets like Mars, Mercury, and Venus. But you put the earth next to some of the planets of our solar system, the earth looks pretty small, right? The earth looks small in front of Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter. 1,300 Earths can fit into Jupiter. So do you think the earth is big or small now? Looks small. The sun is 1.3 million times bigger than the earth. But when we look from here, the sun looks like a football. The reason is it is so far, far away. Imagine from the sun, if you have to look at the earth, you may not even locate it. It is 94.174 million miles away. Yes, you have the earth there, and you have Jupiter and the sun. Now the sun looks big for us, 1.3 million times bigger than the earth. But when you look at some of the stars in the Milky Way galaxy, the sun now looks relatively small. When you look at, Arcturus and Rigel and Aldebaran and Betelgeuse and Antares, they are amazingly big stars just in our Milky Way galaxy. The biggest star in our galaxy is UY Scuti. Do you know how big it is? 5 billion suns could fit inside it. Imagine the vastness of the universe. The earth, the sun is 1.3 million times bigger than the earth, and 5 billion suns could just fit into this one big star, the biggest star of our galaxy. Now we will look at the Milky Way. You have the sun right there. Now don't ask me, where is Remnant Church? The sun is right there. We are somewhere around the corner. How big is the Milky Way galaxy? We are told, according to science, they are able now to measure things up. Knowledge has increased. The Milky Way galaxy is 100,000 light years in diameter. 100,000 light years. Now we need to understand, what is that? Light, as we know, travels at tremendous speed at 186,000 miles per second. Now, how much is 1 second? We all know. By the time you say 1001, okay, shall we just say 1001 together? 1001, that's 1 second. The light has traveled 7.5 times around the earth by the time you completed that word. That is the speed of light. And 1 light year is the time taken for light to travel at that tremendous speed in 1 year. And it travels 5.8 trillion miles in 1 year. And if you're going to measure Milky Way galaxy at the speed of light, you would take 100,000 years to just cross our own galaxy. 100,000 years at the speed of light. Now, how many stars and planets are there in the Milky Way galaxy? We thank God for the advancement of science, for us to marvel at the great and big God that we serve, and to realize how small we are and how great God is. How many stars and planets are there in the Milky Way? According to NASA, the Milky Way is estimated to contain 100 to 400 billion stars. Don't forget, Sun is our closest star. And how big is the Sun? 1.3 million times bigger than the Earth. And it's one of the smallest stars in the Milky Way. 100 to 400 billion stars. And more than 100 billion planets. And that's our Milky Way galaxy. And the neighboring galaxy, the closest galaxy, is Andromeda galaxy. And it is 2.5 million light years away. So if you want to go to the neighboring galaxy, you will take 2.5 million years if you travel at the speed of light. And this is only our neighbor. Now, how many galaxies are there in the visible universe? Because the telescopes are still not penetrating far beyond. But what they can see, they are telling us. How many galaxies in the visible universe? According to the Guardian newspaper, the British newspaper, the astronomers did their research. And they tell us universe has 2 trillion galaxies. Can you imagine? These are not stars, galaxies. 2 trillion. Now, how many stars are there in the visible universe? We saw in our galaxy how many stars are there. Now, in the visible universe, how many stars? We just have to do the math. There are 400 billion stars in our galaxy. So if you take that as an average, and there are 2 trillion galaxies, so that would be 400 billion into 2 trillion. Can anybody help reading this out? 8 followed by 23 zeros. 24 zeros is septillion. So they really not coined a word for 23 zeros. 8 followed by 23. These are the number of stars that we can see. We can't see most of it yet. What about planets in the visible universe? How many planets are there? We know there are 100 billion planets in our galaxy alone. And there are 2 trillion galaxies. So that would be 100 billion into 2 trillion, 2 followed by 23 zeros. Planets. We are talking about planet Earth. Well, there are so many planets, at least, that we can see in the universe of God. Okay, remember Claudius Ptolemy? How many stars he said there are up there? 1022. Where is 1022 to what we see today through the burst of knowledge? But God, beloved, long ago, before Ptolemy could say anything, God through Jeremiah said, as the hosts of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured. God is telling man, listen, you cannot measure the sand of the sea, neither can you measure, count, or number the hosts of heaven, the planets, the stars. Man tried to and gave us all wrong figures for so long time. Now we are realizing that God's word is true. Amen? The Telegraph, the British newspaper, had this to say that confirms the accuracy of God's word found in Jeremiah. More stars than grains of sand. Man is believing that it is true. There are 10 times more stars in the night sky than the grains of sand in the world's deserts and beaches, scientists say. Have you gone to the beach? Have you collected the grains of sand in the palms of your hand? Have you tried to count what's in your hand? You can't. Imagine, put the grains of sand in all the deserts of all the beaches of the world, and the number of stars and planets are 10 times more, according to scientists. We still don't know how big the universe is. And look at the language of the Bible, how God measures. You know, man is talking about light years. He doesn't know how to calculate. Isaiah 40 verse 12, who hath measured heaven or the universe with a span. The span is the tip of your thumb to the tip of your pinky. So God measures the whole universe. When you ask God, how big is it? He says, oh, it's just so much. Wow. The observable universe is 94 billion light years across. And God says, it's just that much for me. Beloved, we don't know how many planets are there, how many stars are there, but we know it's in trillions and trillions. But we are living in this one world called Earth. The only Earth, the only planet that has sinned among the trillions of planets up there. But God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. The creator of the cosmos. He could have just said, oh, this is nothing to lose one planet. I have trillions. He said, no. He loved us so much that even if there was one sinner, we are told, the Creator would come down to save you and me. There was no shortcut, beloved. He's almighty. But when He has given you and I the freedom of choice, and we have made the wrong decision, the only way to get us back, that He pays the price and gives us another chance. Amen. And sometimes we might be lost wondering, God, you're handling the cosmos. Do you care for me? And He comes with His answer, see, I have engraved you in the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me. He measures the universe with a span. And he says, my child, my son, my daughter, you are engraved in the palms of my hand. I can see you as close as I can see my own hand, and I can see you. This reveals the transcendence of God and the immanence of God, the greatness of God, and the closeness of God to each one of us. What a God we serve, who handles the cosmos universe. He is in charge of your life and my life as well. He says in the book of Isaiah 40:26, lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out the hosts by number. Now we know the number, at least whatever we can see, and that's mind-boggling. He calleth them all by name, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. Beloved, he that created also sustains. He is strong. He calleth them all by names. You know, when Job was going through trials and suffering in his life, he had no answers to the questions of life, and his three miserable comforters came with questions, and Job didn't know how to answer. He was trying to answer. And then God shows up in chapter 38 of Job, and God puts forth 77 questions to Job. Questions on astronomy, questions on oceanography, questions on cosmology. 77 questions. And Job was stunned how to answer. He doesn't know any of these things. He asked Job, canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season? Or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? The obvious answer is no. I can't do any of this, Lord. And God was saying, listen, I do all of this. And if I can do all of this to these mighty constellations, you think I don't care for you? You think I'm not in control of your life? And Job was listening to the greatest astronomer, God himself. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades? Well, what is this Pleiades? Pleiades are called the seven sisters, is a cluster of stars. So right in the book of Job, God was talking about these things. And it's not just seven sisters together. He says, can you bind them? It's very interesting. Modern astronomy has found out that these stars in the Pleiades constellation are bound together by a common gravitational attraction. Man did not know for all this while, but now, because of the advancement of scientific knowledge, they realize the Word of God is accurate. I want to quote here from Wonder Worlds by Philip Knox, astronomers have identified 250 stars as actual members of this group, all sharing in a common motion and drifting through space in the same direction. God says, listen, who binds Pleiades? I am the one. They move together. And then he comes with just the opposite question. Can you loose the bands of Orion? First, can you bind Pleiades? Now, can you loose? Interestingly, astronomical science discovered something stunning about the bands of Orion, the Orion belt. These stars seem to be going apart from each other. One, as God said, I'm binding. Another one, I'm losing them. The stars in Orion are gradually moving apart. God's word is true, beloved. He told it long, long ago. Can thou bring forth Mazareth in his season? Mazareth is basically, literally means constellations. Probably God is referring to all the constellations here. Or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Man believed for all this while that Arcturus was a single star up there. But God told Job about Arcturus with his sons. And I want to quote, Arcturus stream is a moving group or stellar stream discovered by Olin J. Egan in 1971. When did they discover? 1971. When did God tell Job? 3,500 years back. Arcturus and his son, comprising 53 stars moving at 275,000 miles per hour, which includes the nearby star Arcturus. So Arcturus is like the father star, and he has other 52 stars, so 53 together. No one knew until 1971. They thought Arcturus was all alone. It comprises many stars which share similar proper motion and so appear to be physically associated. I want to come back to Orion. Orion Nebula is 1,344 light years away from the Earth. Why Orion? Ellen White, she saw many visions about the second coming of Christ. She saw the heavenly city, New Jerusalem, coming. And Jesus said, as the lightning shineth from the east, even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. In the eastern sky, you see the Orion belt. And Ellen White tells us, in early writings, page 41, the atmosphere parted and rolled back. Then we could look up through the open space in Orion, whence came the voice of God. The holy city will come down through that open space. She also says the second coming of Jesus is going to take place from the open space of Orion. The city is going to come down from that open space. She talked about the open space. How did she know about an open space in Orion? It was only 30 years after Ellen White wrote about the open space, a Californian astronomer discovered the open space. In the sword of Orion is a deep opening, receding into the mighty distance beyond. God's prophet was ahead of time, amen? And you know how vast is that open space? 200 million Earths can fit in. And she says, Jesus is coming from the open space of Orion. The city of God is coming from there. God is not there. Heaven is not there. That's just the gateway. Orion is part of the Milky Way galaxy. God is not in the Milky Way galaxy. He's far beyond all galaxies, but that is the gateway. Wow. Well, today I'm going to close here, but not next week, week after that, on the 10th of June. We will continue. We're going to look at that important question. Is there life in outer space? Is there life in the trillions of planets? We are going to look at the Bible, the spirit of prophecy, and science. God bless you. Amen.